Hey guys, my name is Nogan and welcome to an application video for C++. So guys, in this video I just want to use C++ in terms of like we're going to build a clock timer right now. So this is just like an application video that I'm building or I'm programming separate from the channel. Let me say from the playlist of course of C++ because in today we just try and see can we use all the basic concepts of C++ that we know so far just to build a clock timer. It does something very consistent and stuff. So in today I'm just focusing on trying to justify by saying, okay, we'll use a few key concepts of C++ we learned, the structure programming, the new topic of object-oriented programming, the classes and objects we learned in the previous videos. So in today's video, we're just trying to get those things together and see can you just program something very consistent and stuff. So guys, you can see here we have like a basic standard program C++. See how it looks. Now, what I want to do first before we start to build anything here, the key thing is to include a few header files now, or a header file and a CP file now that contain the clock eventually, name convention. So on your right hand side here, click on your source file. If you guys don't know, if you're new to the channel, you don't know how to get to this window eventually here, I'll link the card on top there for my video about the third video in my channel, which is eventually about now C++ like C++ variable in data modifiers and stuff, because there I explain like how to eventually get to this point where you can set up your program set up for C++ eventually, as you can see. But on your right hand side here, on source, the file source, right click on it, go to add, go to new item. So right now I'm going to create a header file called clock. If you guys don't know what is a header file, go and check my C++ video about like header file C++. I'll link it out on top there. It'll give like a much more deep understanding of what is a header file in C++ and how it's been defined in C++. Now you can use it also. Now go back to the source src file again. Right click on it, so we can add a new file also. We have to make also a CP file for this header file clock. So now here my name is clock also. Okay, so whenever you're creating a header file in a CP file separate from your main function, as you can see here, the name of the header file and CP file needs to be the same. As you can see here, I named the header file clock and also CP file clock, which means you have to have the same name convention eventually. Now, what I'm going to do right now, in this clock header file here, you see something called hash pragma1s. It's like a header guard eventually that I mentioned in my C++ video about header files and stuff. Check it out. So I'm going to just first here define a class eventually. And this class will contain all our operations we're going to be using now to build this clock timer. I'll just say class, say clock type. Awesome. Just remove this other things, just build this by default constructors here that we've been built here, and these ones also. Okay. So right now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just try and create a few methods also here and members also here. If you guys haven't watched my video about public keyword in C++, go and check it out on top because I explained like what is the function of a public keyword. As I'm recording this video right now, I haven't recorded a video about the private keyword in C++ because the video is going to come up, it's going to come in a few days and stuff. So right now here, I'll just say void. Let's say the set time function. Going to take a few parameters now. Int again. This. Okay. So int again, int also again, which means it takes 3 parameters now. The 3 parameters eventually will be for hours, for minutes, and also for second. Awesome. Say void again. Now I'm going to say get, which means these are the get and set methods eventually you can use with classes and stuff. Now this get function will get now the memory location of this this variables eventually, and also here it's going to copy the same memory location and stuff. So which means if you're asking yourself, guys, like what is this symbol in front here? If you're asking yourself like what is this symbol here, this is called a ampersand sign, just like called a reference operator. if you don't know what does this mean eventually in terms of like this function here of get time, on my C++ playlist there, I have a video about C++ reference variables, reference functions, and also variables there, which means you can check it out because now in the video I explain about like what is this reference function C++, and how you can use them and stuff. So say void again, print, now print time. Awesome. Now this print function is going to be a const function. Okay, let's make also our get time also function here const also. Awesome. Now after this, I'm going to say void again because now here I'm going to create a few increments. Increment, let me say seconds. Void also again, minutes. Void again, increment, hours. Awesome. Okay, public again keyword. Now I'm going to create a bool function. Now this function just say equal, time. Now this function is going to take a const, clock type is eventually a reference, a class reference eventually of this instance, which means this const class type here with this ampersand sign, which means, you know, I'm just trying to use this bool function to say, okay, I'm going to create now my objects by reference. They can also contain all this functionalities of this methods in here by this clock type ampersand symbol here that I'm using. Make this also const. Awesome. Now in here, my private members, I'm going to have a few private members of type int. M is just like a private member. HR is like short for hours. And again, I'm going to say here, say minutes. And again, now here with the seconds. Awesome. So what you can see, as you can see, guys, now what I did eventually in this after public here is like this few void functions here. Now these void functions now are, by the definition of the word, they're called now methods. Now these methods eventually, as you can see, we just now declare them in this class scope of now clock type here. We haven't given them a definition. What does it mean by this content? It means that now we haven't given now this void set time method here a body, because now what it did is just declaring it here. So this is just now declarations of these. So declarations. How do you spell declarations again now? Declaration. Type. Okay. So now after this, we give now these methods here or functions here a definition eventually in the CP file of clock also here. Now first thing you have to include now the header file, which is the user-defined header files eventually of clock, as you can see here. So after this, I'm going to eventually give now all those methods or functions that have been defined in this clock.h header file here, the definition, of course, the body. So I'm going to go here. When you're giving a function or method from a class scope, a definition or body, what you have to do first, you have to first indicate now the type of that function. It will be void. After void now, where in which scope does it belong? It belongs in clock type. After this, now I have to use now something called the relations operate, which means now this double comma signs, which means you get all those attributes, all those functionalities have been defined now in that class scope of clock type. We need to first focus on what? The set time method. Now here I'm going to say int again, just say hours because now I have to take a few parameters. Int minutes again, and also seconds. So awesome. So as you can see now, our function has been given a body by this here. What I did eventually here, because remember I just declared now this function in the header file here without giving it a sort of like the name of this variable. So just giving the type eventually. So after this here, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna eventually give all those functions a definition. But before you do, let's focus first on this function here. Let's give it this function now. Is I want to say a function now because now I need to do something very consistent. Now say if in here, if for example hours are less than or equal to 0 and hours are greater than 4, something must happen, because we need to eventually see what's going to happen eventually if now between these two comparison now from the statement, what is going to be happening in this. Because remember, we're trying to eventually see that if, for example here, if hours eventually is less than this, something must be displayed here. I'm going to say first here member is equals to hours. So we're storing now in the value of this. Now else if nothing, if we don't store any value in there, what's happening right now, which means we want to just return or store the value in that variable of now the member, the private member variable of now my hr underscore as a form of now 0, which means when I just say in there m underscore initialize 0. Awesome. If again let's say minutes isn't equal to 0 also, in minutes then it is now going to be 60 minutes. Awesome. Now min slash to minutes again. Now else underscore initialize to 0. Awesome. Now if again seconds equal to 0 and seconds 60 again, just say now here else again, let's say initialize to 0. Awesome. Okay, so eventually what's happening right now in each if statement here, when the condition is true, eventually this must happen when we're going to store now the value of my seconds, like my private member second here eventually, which means if it's any value between 0 to 60 seconds, it's going to be stored now in this and eventually going to be used as a form of now eventually outputting the statement eventually, as we'll see in a moment. Now after this function, because now in this function we include all the operations here, so after this, let's just define that function again now. Void clock type again. Let's focus on the get time method. Now the get time method is also interesting because now here what we're doing, we're just trying to focus on say again now in here we're going to say int again, ampersand sign, let me say hours also, same use name convention. Okay, ampersand sign again, minutes. This is the const. Awesome. Now after this, something's gonna happen here. We're just now gonna get those the hours, the minutes and seconds also, which means here we say is initialize now in hours those heatings of now the private members eventually of now m underscore hr, and also here minutes It's not remember this function just gets those information about it, the hours, minutes, and seconds also, and using somewhere in the calculate in the operational way. Now has output now eventually which time is it based on the increments. Now here I'm gonna say now here minutes again, that and seconds. Sec. Awesome. So after this, as you can see, guys, this is a big program we're building. Not big, but not like it is a lot of like coding, as you can see. So after this, I'm gonna just say here, void again. Let's make a space between this thing. Forward again. Now just print those key things here. Just print that function. Okay. We also the count because now it's a const also. Member. Now in here, when you just say if again. Now here if HR is less than 10, something must happen. So now just say std cout. Okay. So after this also here, I'm gonna just say std again. Cout. The cout now HR. Awesome. Okay. As you can see, guys, we're getting a few errors here. This is because now remember we are using now the std cout. Cout is eventually is a function that's been defined for output eventually somewhere in this in a header file called iostream. As you can see here, we don't have iostream here. But if you go to this header file here now of block.h in there, as you can see, we don't have the header file here. What you can do, just include the header file there, iostream, so you can get all those predefined functions of std stream or cout eventually in there. If you have this and you go back to the CP file here and you compile this B, no errors. Awesome. As you can see now, those errors went away. Yeah, 100%. So after this, continue by saying, okay, now if again, now if m underscore is going to be minutes, which means the minutes also. It's less than 10 also. I'm going to say std cout 0 std I'm going to say here underscore minutes. Okay, so after this again now, I'm going to focus on the last part, which is the if for second. So if m underscore second less than 10 also, use std 0 std sec. Awesome. So after this is focus on a function void block type again. Increment hours. Awesome. Now here you just say now m underscore hr, because I have to increment this by using the postfix, which means this will be a postfix because if we're saying the name of the variable in plus plus afterwards. Now this plus plus afterwards now is just a postfix. Now after this, just add eventually 1 to that variable of now m underscore hr. So if again here if statement can say now here, okay, I'm gonna say m underscore hr if is less than 23, which is less than 20 hours eventually. What needs to happen is to follow in the body of the if statement by saying m underscore hr is going to be now equals to 0. You know, incrementing now every time from that perspective, comparing those two. So after this, yes, including the function you're going to be saying now here. void, so void clock type. And just highlight this, copy and paste it here. Okay, change this now into min, and here if it's less than 59, greater than 59, sorry, because now it has to be greater than 59 eventually. And here just say that's awesome. Now what's going to happen eventually in this function here, we need to call that increment hours eventually function, because now why am I saying you have to call, because we're calling it in terms of like we're going to increment also the hours eventually, but that hours will be linked to the minutes eventually, because remember, after each 60 seconds that is 1 hour. 60 minutes is 1 hour, which means in here we have to call that hours function, because after after 60 seconds that 60 minutes is equivalent to 1 hour, so we have to call this function in eventually. So after this, say void increments again. Check this. It's gonna be awesome. So after this, let's focus on the last function, gonna be bool clock this function takes a few parameters now. Clock reference and also const. Awesome. Okay, now here you just have to return now eventually those operations eventually in this return in this function. So I'm gonna say now here return, in the return now m underscore hr equals to, because now in here, before we can be in here, this function will do something very consistent about in the main function, because now in the main function there will declare a few things, but now here let's give this a object, say other let's say other clock, yeah, other clock. Now here when I just say other clock is a means of now the object that contains going to contain all those functionalities. Maybe yes, and also clock minutes. Now other clock again. So let's see. Awesome, contains this. So after this, now if you go back to the other files, you can see here all our functions or methods here have been given the function definitions, you can see. And if you look at this, everything's on point here. Now in the main function, let's say in the main function, I want to do a few operations in the main function. We're going to say now in the main function there, what you want to do is just to test eventually our class. Now in here, the main function here, I'm going to just say set clock type again. Yeah. But as you can see, we're getting error. Let's say my clock. Now we're getting error. The reason why we're getting error because it's based because think about it. It is then he say identifier clock is undefined. So if you come here on top of the header file of include string, if you just say hash include there, include now our predefined or our use defined header file of clock, every error goes away. Awesome. So after this, we can say now here. Now let's say again another clock type. Let's say clock type again. Let's say your clock and stuff. Your clock. Okay, we've now two objects here, my clock and your clock. There's no class type of clock type, as you can see here. The thing is, I want to compare a few things about now my clock and your clock. Like, what is the key thing about the difference between the time sequence that's happening here? So I'm gonna say after this, I'm gonna set the time of my clock. I'm gonna say now my clock dot the set function. So I'm gonna just say 4, 2, and let's say 30 seconds. Now the first value eventually, by definition, this is the hours, this is the minutes, and this is now eventually here the seconds. So after this, I just want to see some key things about this. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to call the print function, the print time eventually function, to do some output. So I'm going to just say now my clock again, get now the print function to print the time for my clock. So after this, I'm going to do the same thing also here for the clock eventually that's in here. So let me just say here cout std cout and end the line. So I'm going to say after this also, okay, I'm going to say your clock dot print. Okay, we have an error somewhere here. The error is because not the std. Okay, yeah, we should do the std also here like this. Awesome. So after this, when I see eventually like the time eventually that is there, in like the my clock and also your clock, the time continues at the different and stuff. So after this, I'm going to also say now std cout and line. Okay, now I'm gonna also set the time also here. The time of your clock. So here when I just say okay, when I just set the time, you actually see what's happening. So when I just say your clock dot set. Let's set it to 5, 35, and 26. Awesome. Now after this, when I just see a few things, just say std cout. So now we get this like a wonderful output. Now after setting your clock, after setting your clock, let's see what is the output there by using the print function. So your clock again, the print. Awesome. So what's happening right now? I just want to see like what is happening in terms of like setting the time also and afterwards also, because somehow the output needs to be consistent and stuff. So After having this now, let's just try and compile a program and see what's happening. And run. Awesome. As you can see, there are no any compilation errors here. So let's run a program and see what is the output, because we're going to see something here. Awesome. As you can see now, we're getting garbage memory eventually here. Not garbage per se, but now the output of your clock, as you can see, because we eventually didn't set anything before it, which means it's just like a segment. Because if you compare this with your initialization here, or your input eventually here, what's happening in this clock time here, using uninitialized memory, as you can see on top here, because now this line of code here is using an uninitialized memory based on the output here, because you can see there's something garbage and stuff. Now after you eventually just set the time eventually there based on the output, there is like an output of the time sequence eventually, as you can see. So guys, you can see we just used the class in the header file and stuff to build a small program, and you can still try to eventually use it by setting a few things, like for example using those this example here, using the same clock again. I'm going to use that increment function. Let me say increment hours, and also increment minutes, and also increment, what am I doing? Increment seconds. Okay. Now after, let me just say also std after incrementing hours, minutes, and also seconds. Let's say my clock again. Say print. Awesome. So we did this before here, and let's just print this and see what is output there. Let's do std cout and line. Awesome. Let's run this again, see. Okay. I guess I'm making that, because now I just make it nicely. We just include here also std and line. Awesome. Let's see here. Okay. Let's run this. Awesome. So guys, you can see eventually from an output here, we initialize now the output from this time sequence, because now remember this 4 hours 2 minutes and 30 seconds was for my clock eventually. Then increment eventually, and after incrementing it here, we've seen it now, it went from 4 to 5 hours, from 2 to 3 minutes, from 30 seconds to 31 seconds here. Interesting. So guys, you can see we built a small program. It does something very consistent and stuff. This can become a huge program if you take it far, because it's possible to make it much more thin, like just build it properly and stuff, and make it much more robust and also usable. So guys, you can see we built a program and stuff that does something very consistent. It's building a clock time eventually for a few things about like after happening and stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you like the video, just give it a thumbs up. And also, if you want to, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.